Will the 21st century belong to China? Is the United States on the decline?
2024 is the year of the dragon.
China is engaged in a whole-of-state effort to become the world's only superpower by any means necessary.
China's economy has developed at an extraordinary rate.
China's playing the long game here. If they want to be the #1 economic power in the world.
Yep. China's economy is on a meteoric rise, threatening to eclipse the US as the world's #1 economy. Their military advancements are staggering, and their tech innovation is mind-blowing. What does this mean for the future? Is China the next global superpower? From the ashes of World War II, the United States emerged as the undisputed leader of the free world, shaping the global order for decades to come. But China's growth has been nothing short of phenomenal. In the 1980s, their economy was a fraction of the US's. Today, it's already the world's second largest. Many experts believe China could overtake the US in terms of total economic output, GDP, sometime in the 2030s. This is just a prediction though, and it could happen sooner or later. But how likely is this scenario, and what factors could contribute to China's ascent? 4 reasons. China will overtake the US. Alright, let's dive into why China might overtake the US. Now keep in mind, these are just a few big reasons, not the whole story. We're not taking sides here, we're just laying out some popular arguments. Number 1. America's broken political system. First up, America's political system is kind of a mess. We're not trying to define what makes a superpower or anything, but let's be real. The way things are going isn't great. You see, when a country's political system is all tangled up like a bunch of Christmas lights, it can slow down progress. In the US, the political divide between Democrats and Republicans often leads to gridlock. Getting anything done in America requires both parties to agree, which can be really hard and often takes ages to get anything done. Instead of working together, politicians spend a lot of time pointing fingers and scoring cheap shots. Plus, with elections happening every 2 years, politicians are constantly worried about re-election. This can make them prioritize short-term gains over long-term investments in things like infrastructure and education. On the flip side, China has its own problems, like struggles with their property bubble and flip-flopping on COVID policies. But at least they're tackling their problems head-on. Decisions are made quickly, even if they're not always the most democratic. This gives them a speed advantage over the US. Plus, social and political divisions in America are growing wider. This makes it harder for the country to present a unified front on the world stage. China, on the other hand, controls information and messaging tightly, which can project an image of strength, even if it's not the whole picture. Now, this isn't to say America's system is all bad. The checks and balances are there for a reason, to prevent too much power in one place. But there's no denying it can be frustrating to watch at times, especially when China seems to be getting things done with laser focus. If Americans can't find a way to work together and address these weaknesses, it could certainly give China a big edge in the years to come. Number 2. Green game. China's got a secret weapon in its quest to outshine the US. It's green game. Right now, the world is shifting towards cleaner, greener energy. It's a big deal because whoever leads in this transition will have a huge advantage. And guess what? China is way ahead in this race. Access to energy sources has always been important for superpowers. In the 19th century, it was coal. Now, it's all about clean energy. China's investing like crazy in green technologies. They're building wind farms, solar panels, and electric cars faster than anyone else. This not only helps the environment, but also puts them ahead economically. Meanwhile, the US is still trying to figure things out. We're arguing about climate change instead of taking action. So, while we're stuck in neutral, China is zooming ahead. And that's one big reason why they might end up overtaking us. Number 3. Global influence through debt trap and diplomacy.
At the end of the day, China has been that guy around the corner with, a bouquet of flowers to Africa, the US, Europe and the UK have time and time again said, be careful of the flowers you see out of the window, they have thorns on them.
Imagine a game of chess, but instead of squares, it's played across continents. China's revamped diplomacy is like a charm offensive on the world stage, and it's not just about making friends. It's part of a bigger plan to boost China's global influence and ultimately overtake the US. First off, China has changed its approach to diplomacy. They've gone from being the big bad wolf to the friendly neighbor next door. No more growling, just handshakes and smiles. And you know what? It's working. Suddenly, countries that used to give China the side eye are warming up to them. Leaders from all over the world are making trips to Beijing, eager to talk about trade and partnerships. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, French President Emmanuel Macron, and even European Council President Charles Michel have all paid visits to Beijing. But that's not all. China is also flexing its economic muscle through something called the debt trap. Here's how it works. China extends massive loans for infrastructure projects, roads, railways, ports. However, these investments often come with strings attached, most notably debt. If a country can't repay, China might gain control of key assets like a port, giving them a strategic foothold. It's like offering a delicious pastry and then demanding a whole bakery in return. Just look at Sri Lanka. They couldn't pay back China for the Hambantota International Port they built, so China said, no problem. Just let us use the port for 99 years. Sri Lanka had no choice. Now, China has a piece of their land. Similarly, whole Africa is in the grip of China. With projects ranging from railways to government buildings, China has a foothold in nearly every African nation. This puts China in a powerful position, allowing them to gain influence and support from these indebted nations, effectively creating a double advantage for China.
African governments themselves said, we are tired of aid and charity. We want to do trade. We want to be treated like partners. The Chinese came along and said, great, we don't do aid and charity. We want to do business with you.
So while the US is busy with its own problems, China is playing a strategic game of chess, making friends and gaining power. And if they keep it up, they just might checkmate the US as the world's top superpower. Number 4. Technological innovation. China's tech is overtaking the world. Its technological innovation, especially in artificial intelligence, is propelling it towards overtaking the US in the global tech race.
Her visit was quickly overshadowed by this.
One prime example is Huawei's 5G technology. Despite being banned in several countries over spying concerns, many nations are embracing it. Why? Well, because when it comes to spying, some countries are thinking, what's the difference between the US and China? Fast internet was the payoff, and many countries are now caught in a modern-day tech war between the US and China. Well, 5G isn't just about faster internet. It's the backbone of future technologies like smart cities and driverless cars. China's lead in 5G means it could potentially control critical infrastructure worldwide. Imagine a city dependent on Huawei's technology. If China desired, they could disrupt everything from self-driving cars to public safety systems. But it's not just Huawei. Chinese tech giants like Xiaomi and ZTE are making significant strides globally. In Latin America, Huawei was the leading smartphone maker in 2022, and in Europe, it was the third largest smartphone vendor. This rapid rise in technology isn't accidental. The Chinese government has been heavily supporting its tech sector through initiatives like Made in China 2025. By 2030, China aims to lead the world in AI, with a projected industry worth $150 billion. China isn't just using AI for fun and games. They're putting it to work in every aspect of society. From surveillance cameras that can spot criminals in a crowd to AI-powered medical diagnoses, China is integrating AI into daily life in ways the US can only dream of. Companies like Alibaba and Tencent are at the forefront of AI innovation, giving China a leg up in the global market. Unlike the US, where AI development is largely driven by the private sector, China's government is all in. And with AI driving everything from economic growth to military strategy, it could give them the edge they need to overtake the US in the race for global dominance. So, will China overtake the US? There's no easy answer. China has the potential to become the world's biggest economy, but they face some hurdles, for example, internal political issues, social inequality, environmental concerns, etc. The US also has its strengths and weaknesses. It all depends on how each country addresses its challenges and capitalizes on its advantages. One thing's for sure. The race for economic dominance between these two giants will be fascinating to watch in the coming years. What do you think? Will China overtake the US, or will the US remain on top? Share your thoughts in the comments, and to watch the latest geopolitical news, watch this video here.